Hi everyone, welcome to another Wolfram Language Design Review, part of our increasingly intense 14.3 series. Okay, sound and vision. Is this the first review we're doing of these features for this version?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. How much stuff is there here?
not super much.
Okay. All right. Video object tracking. So that was new in 14.2. What was added here? What was added here?
That's new in 14.2, as you said. The thing that was requested a couple of times and we're adding is the two future rows in the second table, where we can start tracking from a set of points or set of bounding boxes.
So you're kind of giving it the target of what it is that you want to track.
I see. Yeah, I see. So track things that look like this.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we do that? What's the where does it
Positions or
syntax?
boxes. In that second table, those two F futurized things,
Okay.
positions or boxes.
I think we will have the positions. I'm not sure about the boxes, if that is actually...
Well, how are you specifying the boxes?
Well, you would specify as rectangles, right?
You mean a rectangle primitive or what?
Yes.
Then you should say that rather than B box, which is who knows what it means. You just say rectangle of, if it is specifically syntactically a rectangle, then you should say that in the docs.
Yeah, I think I'll update the description in the second column.
No, I would put it in here. I would say rectangle of blah blah blah. Rectangle of, lock one or something. Just so people know it's actually a rectangle. Just like this says actually an entity. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
But it looks like a good feature.
Yeah, and bounding boxes, if with additional time in this release, we'll get to it, great. If not, it's also going to be a great feature for the next one.
Okay, video stabilize. How much can you stabilize?
Scroll down to a few.
Yeah, it's a good example down there. Surprisingly much.
So, for example, if I'm walking on a treadmill with a camera, so to speak.
Yeah, go to the bottom one. So Shadi did, whoever did it, but you can see both the unstabilized and the stabilized at the bottom one.
Which one?
See the result of grid videos?
This fish one?
Yeah, for instance. Actually, the other one was more clear. The ants up there was more obvious.
Yeah, this one has
yeah, that one.
That's really pretty nice,
isn't it?
And this is a function that we have in the plans of adding more methods, and it will just improve over time.
But I mean, we got to have automatically selected methods. Nobody's going to pick a method.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm just saying.
But do you know how to pick them automatically based on the type of image or something?
At the moment, we only have one method. What I'm saying is this will grow in the next versions.
Okay, but the point I'm making is the value of a method that is not selectable by default is is much lower, right? So my question is, if you're going to add new methods, are they actually selectable by default?
We'll have to think about it. I'm not sure I have an answer for that yet.
Yeah, I don't either. I agree with you completely, Stephen. If there is huge improvement in a different method, we'll add it.
And just switch to that method.
I mean, exactly. And if there is heuristic to pick one method over another,
yeah, then it makes sense. But otherwise, I'm not really don't think it's worth investing in 6 alternate methods.
I agree.
Sandra on our live stream is excited about video stabilize, saying he just programmed a rudimentary version the other day. Okay. Well,
and I think we have thought about including these automatically in some of the analysis functions for 14.3. I'm thinking we'll leave it as a different step that needs to happen
I
by
think
the
so.
user?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like the video object tracking presumably can use that.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I would think there were parameters to video stabilize about how much stabilization you want to do and what thing you want to leave fixed.
And even things like how much you want to crop around and things like that.
I wouldn't put this trajectory in as a second argument. I think it's very unclear I mean, if you know the trajectory, you might as well just be doing cropping yourself.
Now, I think if you scroll down, I might have added a properties and relations example. It's one of those things, again, that it can be expensive to compute a trajectory. And now this one is now returning a time series of transformation functions, which is an internal function, and the result is questionable. But regardless, if somebody has an idea about the camera path, having that pass to the
They
stabilized
never
function.
will. They never will. I mean, let's take the example of me walking on a treadmill, right? There's some approximation to the trajectory, but it's not precise. I don't think it helps. I mean, when would it ever help? Unless you had something where, it was a machine that had a camera that was moved in a certain very specific way. I just don't see it helping. I don't think anybody will ever know that trajectory.
Okay.
I would have thought there were a lot of other parameters that I would expect to go into an association that have to do with, what are you trying to hold fixed, right? Because like in the
Even things
person
like,
walking on a treadmill thing, you want to hold the person fixed, but it's not obvious you want to hold the person fixed.
right. Yeah. So what you're suggesting is some kind of a masking option. I agree that that's going to be useful to specify.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to the video object tracking. It's like, this is the thing that I want to hold more or less fixed.
I agree. I think given the time, we'll probably go without any of those additional parameters.
Just take out the second argument. Just
Okay.
don't burn it on something that I don't think is all that useful.
Sure. And that was a future proposal anyways. That was not gonna go into this version.
Image feature track. So I don't understand. Isn't that a video function already?
That wasn't accepting video. Video object tracking of a bunch of points is effectively equivalent to image feature track of what we are now adding support for, a video input and a
Yeah.
bunch of points. And
So
so
wait a minute. Feature video object tracking. Okay. Image feature track is now as a courtesy going to accept video,
yes.
but it's producing a different output. True or not true?
In the branch now, which is not in prototype build that you have, it's actually returning an object tracking data. But now that you ask it, I think it should return the same output as for list of images.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah,
Otherwise, why aren't you just using video object tracking?
exactly. I agree with you.
So then, but if I put, the second argument to image feature track, I mean, image feature track is a bit of a deprecated function. I mean, it's kind of like this point, right? Because you could just assemble the video out of the images and then use video object tracking.
I don't disagree with you. Should we just not even update it?
No, I think if you've got it updated, just do the update. But I think we should review this again.
I would argue it offers a familiar function that people might have used already with images, and it just works with video now, and you don't have to think about it. I think it's convenient to have it right there.
Fine. But then
you agree with the old output for videos?
Yeah, this old output is a thing. But I mean, this thing here is that a bounding box? Or
Nope,
is that 2
No,
points?
those are the initial points that are getting tracked. Ali, the developer that has made this, points out that we also updated the method, which is 5 to 7 times faster than the previous one. So that comes for free as well.
Nice.
And now this one is a dense tracking as opposed to sparse tracking. So for every single point in the list of images or frames of the video, you
Gives
get
a
a
vector.
displacement.
Yep.
Yep.
And so for every frame, then, you're getting a huge amount of data then. You're getting the vector field, basically, for every successive frame, the diff
That-
vector field for every successive frame.
That's correct.
Okay.
And this is something that we don't have a good solution for in 14.3. If you scroll down, there is an example with video that I think unfortunately was on Ali's laptop, a local video file. We'll go further down. Yeah, the jellyfish example. And so once you compute the displacements, there is quite a bit of work to even highlight things on top of the video, all of which I think has room for improvements.
Yes. Well, we've got the displacement field, and the question is video annotation from something else, right? Do we have highlight video, don't we? Or do we not have that? We have highlight image, but do we have highlight video?
Yes,
Right.
we do.
What does it do?
It highlights bounding boxes or points, pretty much whatever highlight image does, just mapped on all the frames.
But so this would be, I mean, this difference field is something else you could highlight with. So we could generalize highlight video to include a displacement field.
So I am still, we've had discussions with Shadi. I don't think we quite agree on the conclusion yet. The displacement is a property that belongs to a pair of frames, not a single frame.
Indeed.
So highlighting a single frame with it is kind of a lie. I mean, you could just say,
no, it's a derivative. I mean, basically,
yes, it is. Yeah.
So this is highlighting the derivative, so to speak, which doesn't seem like a crazy thing to do. I mean,
That's fair. That's fair.
insofar as we think of it as a derivative, it lives on a, a derivative can be moved around to live on, it's not as opposed to, well, whatever.
I get what you say. That's reasonable.
But I think one thing that might be useful, that currently the result of image displacements is a list of matrices. Each matrix element is a dx dy vector.
Yep.
It doesn't have any head necessarily that says that's what it is. Do we want highlight video to assume such list of matrices?
No, I don't think we can. I mean, also,
Exactly.
let me point out that that list of matrices is going to be one less long than the number of frames. Presumably, it's the differences.
That's correct.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
that's correct.
That's probably not the end of the world, but it's also going to be one dimension deeper.
But just in terms of highlight video, video object tracking returns an object, which you could use in highlight video, even though we have another method for boxing the things in video, video object tracking. That makes sense? I mean, in other words, if you say video object tracking and then you want to highlight the objects that were being tracked, the dog wants to be, masked with red or something.
Yes.
I don't think we've discussed through what you want to do with. So let's say you get this displacement field.
Yep.
I think that one might want to sort of highlight only when it's big enough type thing. Like either you want to highlight something that says stationary or something that really moves. And I don't think you want to have like a vector at each pixel.
No.
That's obviously not useful.
No, because it's going to mask everything out.
Right. And so I think we need to spend some time thinking through what it is that you actually want to.
Look, I think what we're going to end up finding is we're going to have a highlight video function, and then we're going to have another function, highlight video displacements, that provides various options for that. That would be my initial take. But
actually,
obviously
one thing that we've had, it's been a challenge for other highlighting functions. So if the only thing you do is to say what and maybe how to style it, that's highlight image, highlight graph, and so on works great for that. But let's say that you have some value, let's say a centrality measure for vertices or something. So now we don't have, we never built one, but it became clear that we need to build such a function. And I think that this is the same thing. I have something quantitative for each pixel, basically.
Yeah.
You know, happens to be a vector here, but it could be something scalar, right? And so I think that we have the same issue here. You know, it's like a image value plot or video value plot type thing, or highlight.
Something similar to that for image bounding boxes, which is really, really sparse. You get 5 bounding boxes. If you say labeled of that bounding box and give it a label, highlight image, highlight video are capable of putting the label on the frames as well. But that's a whole lot more sparse than what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're not. I mean, if we have a value at every pixel, what we've got is basically array plot video or something, or array video.
Yeah, basically. It's, I mean, it's a few dimensions up from what it does, but yeah.
Well, why don't we call
I'm
it?
not sure we have any format that we could stir that for video.
Array video?
Yeah. I'm not sure.
What, you just think
vector
it's
valued stuff?
Yeah.
That's correct.
no, wait a second. For the vector valued stuff, you're going to have to just have a color map. And the color map is going to be, you know, the hue wheel or something at every point.
Yeah, it's kind of an inverse color map though. Right, because how it is saved in a file, we don't have pixels of those dimensions. Right, we cannot have a vector pixel.
No, I understand. So but you're using the color, the hue.
Yeah, this is, yes, kind of an inverse color map, yes.
But you could map
using the color to make the number rather than the number to specify.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, but I can imagine then. So array video doesn't seem like a totally stupid thing.
one could imagine that we specify how to map it to something that can be represented in a video or image, meaning RGBA. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. With a color map. I mean, that's what we got to do in array plot. Array plot obviously just has numbers, and you've got to map it into colors.
Right, but we kind of, but we want to use the codecs. You know, we can trick it.
Yes, I get that.
Okay.
Well, so that's a question of how to plug into the codecs.
Right.
I mean, look, the more extreme version of this for all of these things would be, which one day video 3D, because we've got geometry, and we could, in principle, if there was a proper format for VR, we could be generating something we call, video 3D, and it could be a 3D viewable video. Is that completely crazy?
No.
Is there such a format right now that's emerged? What was that one that was emerging a year or two ago with I mean, not USD format, but there was something else?
So I'm not sure if you mean the same thing, but there are 360 videos. They are stored as a normal array of pixels, but then you project that onto.
I didn't mean the same thing. I meant the kind of thing that's immersive virtual reality.
Yeah, but most of those formats just store 2 video channels, one for each eye type thing.
Fine. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're not quite there yet on this. I mean, generalizing image displacements as a courtesy to deal with video seems fine, but there's much more to do on figuring out how to show annotations to videos.
Right.
Yes.
How should I look at the video GUI here?
You've already seen the change of storage location. Yep. These are bigger than the width, but that's if you scroll to the right a little, you'll see the storage location.
Where am I going here?
Yeah, those are going wider. Just scroll a little to the right so that you see the rest of the GUI. Oh, that's not supposed to have a pink box.
Are you in some weird
state? Yes, I'm in a weird state. I think the dynamics.
that looks like it's not happy with some light duck switch stuff.
Okay, doesn't matter, but I think that looks pretty decent. What do you guys think? I think it looks quite nice.
I like it.
I was skeptical at first. I'm very happy with it now.
Yep.
That's nice. The icons are nice too.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think the local file looks like that even approximately anymore.
I heard this comment. It's like, cool, you 3D printed a save icon.
Indeed. You know that somebody really said that to me quite a number of years ago. Some kid actually said that to me, quite seriously. Okay, let's move on. You got looping. Okay, great. That's more useful than you might think for these scientific type videos.
I'm sure, yeah.
Okay. Image identifier.
A second whole batch of image functions that are now returning some sort of a time series, or in some cases videos, on video inputs now.
Great.
We did a big first batch, 14.2. This, I think, kind of concludes data for image functions.
Okay.
There are, however, as some of my notes say there, things like derivative filter produce small values. A lot of those, I think, as a PSA for users who are watching or whatever, a lot of those small values will be lost as things are getting compressed into video files.
Well, I mean, my other point here is this is lots of functions that vary with space. Like the derivative is a spatial derivative. We could also imagine a temporal derivative, which is what we were discussing previously. I mean, many of these filters on 3D images, they filter, they apply their derivatives and so on in 3D. We could do space-time versions of these.
Yes.
That would need some other spec though. So
I think that needs a different spec. That needs and can already probably be done with the generic video map time series, video map list kind of functions. But I think just a small upgrade of image functions frame by frame on video still
fine.
Use.
Right. But I still think that another set of functions that are filters and so on, which is kind of what we're going towards with the displacement, image displacements and so on. I don't know. I mean, what are the standard time, space-time kind of filters and so on that depend both on space and on time? Comments?
As far as filters, I think the things I've been looking at, like segmentation or segmentation, denoising, things like that does have some on-frame computation, but definitely would like to have over time consistency comes to mind. Even things like color detection, color tone mapping. Currently, with these functions, we do all of them frame by frame, but you don't want to have big jumps from one frame to another.
Indeed. All right. So that's a separate thing, is being able to do that with
Yep.
Oh boy.
Now, the binary segmentation functions, I think that's going to be a useful batch to update, but that problem of not being able to store zeros as exact zeros in video files is messing up with the workflow.
Yeah. I think this is not a problem we're going to solve right now.
Okay.
Okay. Speech synthesize. Oh, okay. Does it sound better?
Much.
It's comparable to the Mac OS speech synthesizer that you're probably used to, but comparing to the local non-OS synthesizer, oh, it's not in the builds, is it, Carlo?
No, it's not quite in the builds yet.
Okay.
If you go to the page, I think you can listen to them.
No, if you open the example section right here.
Don't worry about it. Which, oh, here.
Yes.
Examples.
Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversation.
Quality low. That was quality high.
Yeah, and we'll have to do some kind of selection of which ones we think are the best. I'm not sure it's worth exposing everything.
So is some of these, do they all have high and low quality variants, or is it only some?
No, that depends on the voice. Some are just low, some just medium, some are a combination.
Yeah, it's not that you can pass the quality as a parameter to the synthesizer. The quality is somehow defined as a property of the voice itself.
No, I wasn't really. I mean, some of those sounded pretty. I mean, they're nice and smoothed, but they definitely are computeristic.
Yeah,
And
but
their
if you go
intonation.
listen to what it used to be,
Yeah, it sounds less computery.
yeah,
These are smooth. Okay.
yeah,
All right. What's
not the
next?
final word on that, but much better.
This is nothing for you to necessarily look at, just a reminder to ourselves and a part of our development cycle, a whole bunch of work on dark mode support.
Good. How close are you to done?
Very close, I think.
Oh, I guess I was talking about myself. Everything video and audio is done, and
Everything else is done as well.
then I think we're done.
Yep. So this is the list that we know of. If anything we haven't come across, obviously needs to be developed.
Okay.
Carlo needs to leave at some point. If he can go past import export, there is the whole service connection update that we wanted to briefly talk about as well.
Who's going to be representing the import export stuff here?
I can probably talk to all of these.
Okay.
There are some that minor tabular updates.
All right. Service connections.
You know that a big service connection framework
Well,
upgrade
yeah.
happened. As far as functionality, there are mostly minor updates in the functions. Most of them should have some tentative or non-tentative updates already. We're suggesting one new function called service objects.
Yeah, why not? That just has
okay.
the current open service connections.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
When you say updated, do they have functionality changes, these things, or not?
Not quite. Everything should look more or less the same, just work as it should.
Okay. Send message, leave it. I mean, obviously these things go away.
Those things I should undocument.
Yeah.
Email, do we want to leave it in as well? It's obviously better done than mail.
Fine. No, because you sometimes want to send a message to two places.
Okay. Okay, then I'll just do a small note. That's the one that list is the one that you've already looked at in a separate meeting.
Okay. All right. Data connection. So what function is this supporting?
Data connection object.
So how do you connect to how do you initiate a connection to something? I don't know what Kaggle looks like.
So go there to data connection, and now there should be a whole list of individual pages for each connection.
They are not there yet, Roger.
Oh, they're not there yet? Okay.
No.
I've looked at prototypes of these at least. So
If you go to the O tab, there's a whole new type of a page. 3 of them, as of today, have documentation pages.
Okay, but my question is this: how do I initiate a data connection? I mean, this represents symbolically a data connection. How do I actually open it?
Not this one. This was an idea that didn't happen. Data connection object that's linked in C also. If you just want to click there.
So data connection is not documented.
No.
Okay, but the connection object is just a symbolic object. How do I open it?
Import.
I see. But when does the authentication happen?
It can be specified as a part of data connection object definition. And if not, a dialog or something should pop up at the time of import.
Okay.
However, the authentication is happening.
Okay, where am I going here?
I think this one is coming back in the tabular meetings next week.
Okay, all right, fine.
The thing that's left.
Yeah, we should probably do it there, Stephen.
Import.
Okay. Fine. We had Apache log before.
Apache log we wanted to update it. Now we're adding log, just a log format. Open that. That was a typo in the agenda.
It's just called log.
Yes.
I don't know how to get to a format page.
Go to the O tab.
Yeah, I know.
Formats.
Where is it? Okay, there we go.
Yep.
But what are we calling it before? What were we calling it before?
We still have the Apache log.
No, but are we hacking this because we want something that turns into a tabular? Is that the idea?
No. Apache log is still going to be there, and it's actually being updated. But that's just one type of a log format. This is now a whole family of log formats. And tabular, yes, is the default because this is a new format. But then if you look at the import option, possible settings for data format, there is a whole listing of known log format structures, but we're also supporting an arbitrary format specification.
But why aren't we just having those as separate import formats? I mean, so people can actually find them. I mean, why don't we just have common log, Apache error log, all those kinds of things as format
Then maybe something like general log for that arbitrary format.
No, you can just call it log if you want.
Just log?
Yeah, and then these things like common log is not the natural logarithms. It's it's whatever that thing is.
Yes. Oh, okay.
I mean, we want to have, the more formats, the better, and we might as well just pivot them from the top, so to speak.
Okay.
And a .clf, is that a .clf file? I mean, they probably have different endings, don't they?
I think it's a lot of these are extensionless, actually. I'll have to check if CLF is an extension or not.
Okay. Okay. But these are format types that by default read in as a tabular.
Yes.
And Apache log is what? I mean, Apache log would then be the odd one out that doesn't read in as a tabular. Is that right?
Oh, that's correct. But it is going to have a tabular element.
I suspect we should change it to reading in as a tabular. I don't know if that, I don't know how bad we feel about that, but I think it's probably the right thing to do. I mean, it could break.
First thing that comes to my mind is how much we are even using it internally. And we're gonna hear complaints internally, not even thinking about external. But I'm hoping people are using it to complain.
Let's do a bit of a poll of how that's being used.
Okay.
See whether we think we can change it. Okay. What is MTX again?
It's a sparse.
Oh, matrix.
Yeah, I think it's a sparse matrix format.
Okay, what is this toString function, a CSV, TSV?
We had a whole discussion or need for usefulness of being able to export things like quantity 10 comma meters as is to CSV, or exporting it as 10M to CSV. And then there were various proposals, including a completely separate format so that like expressions get exported as expressions. If you open the page for CSV, the internal page for CSV, you'll see the proposal. Now, this toString functions basically says what we should apply to expressions before they're exported to CSV.
As opposed to having a .csv expr or something, that means
Yes.
a thing that has expressions in it.
Correct.
I mean, to me, CSV expr or something like it sounds reasonable because it's going to have all kinds of delimiter issues and so on. Is it not? Doesn't it need to some fairly elaborate?
I think this is working. Scroll down to the examples, or maybe export options should say it as well. Yep, that blue table.
Mhm.
Things like format, input form, and some such can be specified, and we should have all sorts of examples down below.
Okay. I don't know. But I mean, okay, so what's the point here? The point is that
I mean, I think the question is, when you export in one of these formats, do you expect it to be openable on another system or in Mathematica itself or in Wolfram language itself?
yeah,
Right.
it's mostly other systems.
That's what I'm thinking too.
But it's going to be more efficient to be able to export input forms so that we can import them back more efficiently. Why do all the conversion if we know it's coming back to our system?
No, well, that's why I'm suggesting a CSV expr format that does that. That is comma separated. Yeah.
That was one of the initial proposals, to have a whole separate expression CSV format. Now you're calling it CSV expert, whatever we want to call it.
Well, no, CSV expression is fine, or expression CSV.
But you're slightly away from those examples. If you scroll a bit down, you're at import elements. You have to go all the way to export options. We usually close these sections. Yep, there it is, the tentative section.
Isn't this completely wrong with the quotes, with the nested double quotes?
No,
It's
because
completely
still
wrong.
kilometers has quotes around it.
Why does the two? I mean, I'm totally confused. There's multiplication here. You've got strings next to strings. Look,
I'll look into that.
this looks completely wrong.
Okay, I'll look into that.
I hate the name toString function. Don't we have a precedent for this elsewhere? Like how to convert symbols to exported things and so on?
I didn't find anything else. Maybe I didn't look hard enough.
Okay.
I know there's insertion function and combiner function, but it's not quite the same.
Yes. Well, the thing is, okay, so presumably we have a default way. Okay, I mean, I agree that that like, what do you do with units type thing is a reasonable question.
Yes. As for naming, by the way, interpretation function is the kind of inverse of that operation.
Right. Kind of like an expression formatting function.
And Sean is reminding me of export form.
Yes. Humph. What are we going to do with this? So how worthwhile is it to have a CSV expression format? Big, pure expression round tripper.
I think it's valuable to have the functionality, whether we export and import as simple as the expressions, or we actually do some efforts for canonicalizing and then interpreting. Both are very useful. Now, either we have to do it via a separate format like CSV expression, or it's that option.
Well, but okay, but on the import, look, this is like scaling functions or something where you need both the forward and the inverse function. Right? If you're going to do an import thing, you need the inverse function.
Import should be capable of either interpreting 10m as quantity 10 meters or quantity 10 meters as quantity 10
Yeah,
meters.
but it depends on how wild you make the thing you're doing. I mean, this, if you allow a general function, you can have anything you want there. You can decorate the 10 meters with, star 10 meters and so on.
True. But then we do also have a whole bunch of tabular column transformations and interpretations and all of that. So that could also easily be a second step and not a part of import. So I think the import story is a little easier than the export story.
Let's see. I mean, look, setting it up so that you have the one-way function for export without, I mean, I'm confused here. Look, I can see that it's worthwhile to have an expression conversion function. Although I could imagine that it gets kind of complicated because you want to do one thing if it's a units expression, a quantity expression, you want to do it another thing it's for this. Now you can write that with pattern matching, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, expression formatting function is the more reasonable because it isn't a string. If it's being sent to a file, it's not really a string. Expression rendering function, expression formatting function.
I didn't follow what you just said. At the end, when it's going to a CSV file, it is an actual string.
Well, I mean, that's an implementation detail. What's in the file, the fact that files are equivalent to strings is not self-evident.
In CSV, it is. It's a text-based.
No, I know, I realize that, but I'm just, I don't know. I mean, I feel like calling it a string function when it is going to a file seems confusing to me.
I see. I got it now.
I mean, I would favor expression formatting function to begin with, and the expression formatting function is ignored on import. Does that make sense to you?
I think we're designing this as just an export option anyways.
Okay, so it's ignored on import.
Yes.
Well, then I suggest expression formatting function.
Okay.
And okay.
Which could return, I think the toString function is very obviously asking for a function that always returns string. Expression formatting function, if it returns anything but a string, we can do toString on it, I guess.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Okay.
All right. Anything else? Well, let's see. What else are we looking at
Among
here?
the other things that are here, Markdown is getting a big update.
Good.
Both expression exports and whole notebook exports is coming.
Good.
Import as a notebook already has a good version in prototype build that you're using. And there are more cases that we are improving.
For the tree version. You
No,
said import, notebook import.
I was still talking about Markdown.
Okay.
Importing Markdown as a notebook.
Yes, that's
We
useful.
we had a poor man version of it, 14.2, didn't even document it, but it's getting updated now. That notebook imported as a tree is also being added. You requested that from another meeting.
Yep.
A couple of days ago. There's a discussion whether we should call that tree, whether we should call that element a tree element, an expression tree element, or some such.
Oh, wait a minute. Why? I mean, it's a tree, right? It's coming out as a tree.
Can you maybe give me a little bit of a reason why we want to have that element? Maybe that helps.
Yes. I mean, you're trying to understand a notebook. The lower levels are down at leaves of the tree. The higher levels, I mean, this is cell groups, right? It's a tree based on cell groups.
But
That's what.
okay, but I think tree as cell groups would be useful, but the code that Bob sent over goes down to leaves of expressions in individual cells. So if you
That's
have a
silly.
1+1.
Yeah, I got it. It's silly. That's silly. I was had in mind tree as in the structure of the notebook is represented by a tree, not every single expression is treeified.
Okay, so I think every expression treeified could be something like expression tree, but I don't see usefulness in that.
No, I think this one that I'm describing is like notebook tree.
So cell tree maybe?
Yeah, cell tree is nice.
Should we call it that?
Gotta
Yeah,
run.
why not?
Okay.
Bye, Roger.
Bye.
Okay, so cell tree sounds fine.
Okay, and then the implementation we have for it is wrong. We implemented that expression treating, so we'll get that implemented. I agree that that's going to be a whole lot more useful.
Yep. JSON lines format. What is that? JSON-L.
Yeah, that was also multiple times suggested.
By whom?
Both internal and external. I think that's mostly for streaming data sets and stuff.
Okay, fine, but what should the thing be called?
I think JSON lines with a space in between is what it's called.
Well, so smoosh them. JSON lines with a capital L and, no space, right?
Okay.
That'll be what our usual convention is.
Okay.
The Apache log and the tabular thing is a nasty mess.
JSON L, by the way, is the extension, but I don't disagree with JSON lines.
No. If JSON-L is the extension, well, okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Call it JSON lines, and then it's .jsonl.
Okay.
The Apache log thing. Humph. I mean, there are various hack workarounds, like calling log be defaulting to an Apache log and use tabular. But that's a workaround.
Sorry, you're saying don't return tabular just yet?
For Apache log. Well, you're going to do a survey of people who've used it.
Yes.
And there may be quite a few, in which case we probably can't change it.
Yep.
Okay, well, bring that back in some other meeting.
Okay.
We're going to have some kind of miscellaneous cleanup meeting if it doesn't fit in a larger one.
Okay.
All right, what else do we have to figure out?
I think that's about it for us.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Okay.